Records will be this, for the records, please.
Oh, man, I got coffee on my shirt.
Ready? Tint that.
The date is November 21st, 2005. Currently inside RFA, room 2244. The interviewee is Master Sergeant Della, and the interviewers are Paul Wu and Jonathan Perez Torres.
For the records, can you please state your rank, your name, date of birth, and the service you entered? The service branch, dates of service, and theaters of service.
Master Sergeant Prey, date of birth 5/19/1964, and I was in the United States Air Force. What am I missing?
Birthplace?
It's classified. No, I'm kidding. Flushing, New York.
And the theaters of services.
Gulf War, Noble Eagle.
What persuaded you to choose the Air Force over the other services?
My dad was in the Air Force. And as a female, I wanted to go into a branch of service that wanted you for your knowledge and your brains versus how much you can lift, how much you can run. I just thought the Air Force, being a minority and a female, I would get better treated.
At what age did you decide to enter? What age were you decide to enter? What was like your final decision to sign up for the Air Force?
I was 20.
And how accepting was your family, being that your dad was part of the Air Force? How did he view it? And then how was it different from your mom's view on it, or?
Oh, no, actually, it was my dad's idea because I was in law school, so he thought going into the Air Force would give me courtroom discipline. So originally, he had suggested that I go into the reserves or the Guard. But being the lazy teenager that I was, I didn't want to go all the way out to Staten Island to the Reserve Center, so I entered with a bet with my cousin to see who could stay in the longest.
And out of you and your cousin, who did stay longer?
She did, because she's retiring this year.
And does she brag about it, or?
No, because she knows why I got out. It was to take the job here, so.
And can you share some of your experiences during boot camp, and what was the hardest thing for you to conquer during boot camp?
During boot camp, the buffing machine. We had to buff. There was this big buffing machine that you had to do the floors. And back then I only weighed like 100 pounds, and this thing was like really heavy. So we had to set like one girl on top just to hold it down. I don't know if you've ever seen them. There's like this big buffing machine. So after I put a couple of holes in the wall, they told me I couldn't use it anymore, but I was determined to master it.
How long did it take you to become a Master Sergeant?
14 years.
How did you feel when you reached that rank?
I was proud because that was a rank that I had set for my goal, and I probably could have made chief, but I decided to get out and take the job at RFA.
Now, did you gradually move up in sergeant rank? Or?
Yes, it was a normal progression.
It stated that you went to college for some time.
Yes.
Why not, try for OCS?
Because the original intent, like I said, was just to come in for a brief time, to get the basic training and get some experience under my belt, and then go back out and get my law degree. But I actually had fun doing it, and I liked what I was doing, so I just never pursued it, I guess. And I think the enlisted rank is just as, or sometimes even more important than the officer rank.
I read that you took involved in the Gulf War. Can you explain some of your duties and missions that you had during the Gulf War?
No. Most of my duties and missions in the Gulf War was actually back here, and it was doing what we now know as Homeland Defense, but it was air defense back there and giving air support to make sure that our planes that went over were safe.
Now, were you always stationed in Griffith, New York, or?
No.
What was your first place of being stationed?
It was in Eglin Air Force Base in Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
And how did you, how were you able to adapt to the change from a sunny state to a cold winter state?
Meaning coming from Florida?
Yes.
Well, I went from Florida to Iceland, so that was pretty different. I went in the dead of winter, but being a New Yorker, because I grew up downstate, so I was used to it.
I see that your general skills were revolved around technology. How long did it take you to learn and really understand your duties with the technological?
I would say probably about 10 years in is where I felt comfortable enough where I was more, I guess, I knew the ins and outs of the job. But your technology, as you know, you continuously have to learn and stay on top of your game.
Since you had some law under your belt, why not try out to be a judge advocate general?
I thought about it, but as I said, the job I got into was actually purely by accident, and I actually loved it, so I really didn't have a desire to go back to law.
When you first signed, how long did you intend to stay for? 4 years?
Just, actually, I didn't even see myself making it through basic training, but the 4 years, that was my goal, was the 4 years.
And then at what point from those 4 years did you decide you want to really stay there longer than 4 years?
It was funny. It was actually at my 3-year point, and there was 2 deciding factors. One was a $1,000 phone bill that I had incurred while I was in Iceland, and an easy way to pay it off was if you re-enlisted, you got a re-enlistment bonus. It was pretty substantial back then. So I was looking at that, and then I happened to go back home, and I was like talking to some of my friends, telling them what I had did in the last 3 years, and it seemed like I had done more in 3 years than they had did in a lifetime, and I made good friends, and I was like, oh, this isn't bad. So I re-enlisted, and I made a goal to myself: if I made it to 10 years, then I was going to go all the way. So.
I read that you believe that your NEAD unit was very close. Can you please give a little more details on it, like how you guys became close? And do you believe the phrase that says soldiers fight for each other?
Soldiers? That's an
Well,
Army phrase.
Airmen?
Yes. And I'll give you the example of, our unit's always been close because we're a small unit, and that's just the nature of our mission. But when that was evident and I saw it was during 9/11. And we were on duty, and I don't know if you guys know, but we were like the first military unit to respond. We got the calls from FAA. And I noticed people that we had just went through our crew shift change, so you had night shift getting off, they had went home, and then day shift just came on when it happened. And some of the people that were on night shift were still there, and they stayed. And then the others who had went home, like heard about it on the news before they got called back in, turned around and came back in after working 12 hours. And you just saw everybody pull together during that time frame and during that crisis.
Can you please explain Operation Noble Eagle and what it consisted of?
Operation Noble Eagle was our mission, the military's mission right after the events of 9/11. And Noble Eagle was, like I said, what we now know as Homeland Defense. So it was us protecting our homeland. And then Enduring Freedom was the operations for what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan.
And being part of NEADS, were you guys aware of the planes that hit the Twin Towers? And did you guys have enough time to react?
No, actually we didn't. We got a call from FAA, and they said, we have hijacked aircraft. Can you please scramble your aircraft? Because we have aircraft on alert through up and down the coast. And as NEADS, we're responsible for the air defense of the whole northeast section of the United States. So we got the call, and we went through our normal process to try to get it out for a hijack. Now, hijacks, you don't really think about a hijacked aircraft being a bomb and being blown into a building. Usually, you put aircraft up on it, follow it, find out what the hijacker's demands are, and just try to keep it away from other aircraft. By the time we scrambled 2 aircraft out of Cape Cod, it had already hit the building. I think the timeline, and this is all in class, is they had just taken off out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts by the time the first one hit. So no, there was not enough time to respond.
What types of awards and medals did you receive, and why did you receive them? Like, did you receive any for working in the ads during this time of crisis?
We got meritorious service medal, which is not the highest, but it's for meritorious service, obviously. And all of us that were on duty that worked during 9/11 and the Noble Eagle, we got that. And then you could get accommodation medals for other activities that you do throughout your career. And don't ask me how many. I think I have between those, probably 8 or 9.
I see that you were an active member of Honor Guard.
Yes.
What type of requirements did you have to, or what type of requirements did you have to become a member, and how long did it take you in your military career to become part of the Honor Guard member?
Honor Guard, here we go back to my younger days. Everything was on a dare for a selfish reason, I should say. And Honor Guard is something I started when I was stationed in Florida. And you live on the dorm, you live on the base in a dorm, and you get what they call a meal card. It's kind of like what you guys have here, when you go through for your lunch. And I wanted to get extra money. So to get off the meal card, and they would pay you $300 a month. If you were a member of the Honor Guard, then you could do that. So yes, I started it for selfish reasons and for money. But once I got out there and I started doing it, and I saw the effect that it had on the family members to see you pay last respects to the dying vet, then I did it for the right reasons. And
So would you say that being part of the Honor Guard and seeing the impact it had on those family members' lives did it impact your life and make you who you are now? Or
I think it had a big part to do with it, because you have to be, the first funeral I did, I cried. And you can't do that. You have to learn how to keep your emotions inside for that period, that time period. And the first funeral that I did, I think I was 21. And I was a pallbearer, and I'm standing right across from the family, and it was a 25-year-old that his wife was pregnant, and he had a 2-year-old son, and he died in a car accident. So we were paying honors to him. And I saw, and I'm standing there, and I'm bawling. So it made me think. But then I had to go with them myself and learn how to be professional and not show your emotions. And that takes a lot of determination and a lot of discipline.
how long did it take you to, would you say, to master being a
Honor?
perfect Honor Guard?
You're never perfect, but probably about 2 years. Because you have to learn, and it's through practice and doing it, and you just have to tell yourself why you're out there doing it. And what helped, I guess, is later, you'd be walking around, or you get a thank you letter from the family, and you see how much that meant to them, and you hear other people tell you, from their parents or grandparents that died. That's the only thing that they remember from the whole funeral service was that. So
Was being an Honor Guard help you develop your professional bearing throughout your whole career?
Oh, yes, definitely. And it's really hard when you, especially now, and I still do it, and you live in a community and you're doing it, when you have to present the flag to the widow of somebody that you knew or you were very close with. You have to keep your emotions inside of you. The hardest one I had to do was my uncle. He was actually in the Navy, but my aunt asked if I would present the flag to her. So, this is an uncle that I was close to. And you have to keep your emotions inside or not show them on the outside. So it makes you tougher. It really does. So, yes, it does help you with your professional.
Who in your military career left the biggest impression and the biggest impact in your life?
One person? Or just...
Just, in general.
Yeah.
Early on, it was one of my bosses that since became a best friend, and I was really impressed and tried to emulate how professional and caring she was with the people that work for her and how she knew her job. And then, like I said, we became best friends. And then later, I would have to say it was my past commander, Colonel Bob Marr, because I saw how he was during 9/11 and how his strength gave us strength. So those are the people who left the biggest impact on me.
Do you still keep in contact with these two people?
Yes. And they're like mentors. So they're people that I bounce stuff off. And then I have a Chief David Keir. It's the same thing. If I have a problem or if I think that I'm doing something wrong or I need guidance, I'll just call him and bounce it off him.
After being 20 years in the Air Force,
Mm-hmm.
what made your decision to retire? And when you made that decision, was it a balance point where you're not sure, or?
It was hard. And the biggest decision was, I looked at, is it time to go? Do I need to make room for other people? Because you don't want to, if you feel like you're just there and you're not contributing, then it's time to go. I didn't feel like that, but I'm like, at some point in time, you have to make the decision to move on. And I was still teetering it. What made it easy was when the job here at RFA for junior ROTC. And I used to come over the first year of it to help with the color guard and the drill team. And just seeing the kids and the impact that I could have on them, it made it easy. And it's not like I'm retired, so I'm still in the uniform. I still have to follow the military rules, and I still am close with NEAD, so it's kind of like I'm still doing it.
So would you say that your lifestyle hasn't really changed from since you retired up to now, or?
No, not really. It's just, my airmen have gotten younger, so I'm dealing with molding my future is how I look at it.
Now, how hard was it to you to adapt from a military setting to a high school setting with a whole bunch of teenagers and drama? How hard was it for you, to adapt? Or are you still trying to adapt and try to figure out?
No, it's not hard because you got to look at it this way. It's like, when you're in the military, you get a lot of kids that come straight out of high school. So if whether you're 18 in June sitting in a high school classroom, or you're 18 in July sitting at basic training, or in some unit, you still have a lot of the problems. So it doesn't go away. So it's just knowing how to deal with it. So really, it hasn't changed much.
As a teacher, do you reflect on your past jobs and incorporate them into your teachings? Say for instance, you just see something going on graffiti, and just be like, violation law. No, don't do that. Bad.
Could you rephrase that?
Well, it's
I think what he's trying to say is, did your military career, everything you learned from the 20 years you were there, did it help you, did it give you building blocks for you to build upon your teaching skills, or?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and it wasn't just what I learned in the military. It was, growing up in New York City, and it was my home life, my background, and it's just that carried into my military life, which helped me with my military life, which in turn helps a lot, because in my classroom, as you too well know, I tell you, I'm a coach of life skills. I'm just trying to help you learn from my past mistakes and some of the good stuff that I've done. So it's probably the basis of my instruction.
Now, being an instructor for the Air Force, did you have any special training or requirements before you could become an instructor, or are you still in the process of taking some of the training and stuff?
No, because everybody's a trainer. Well, we call them trainers in the Air Force, because you always train, the person to take over for you, because you're not going to be at that base or that assignment the whole time. So you're always trying to prepare somebody to just walk into the job seamless, and the mission doesn't suffer from that. So you always train somebody, and you have to learn training skills. Not everybody can teach or train. So you do try to hone, how do you train. I've learned in the educational department, or the educational side of it, that they have different names for different teaching styles, whether this person's this long name like this for how you teach them. I'm like this. If I look at you and go, John, and I'll say something to you and try to explain it to you, and you give me that deer in the headlight look, okay, well, that didn't work. And then you just try to, if you know the person, then you try to explain it on a level that they understand. So it helped.
So coming from a military background into a high school setting, what was the hardest thing for you to handle, to get a grasp upon?
Accountability, because in the military you're accountable for every action, and I notice in the high schools that there's no, I wouldn't say there's no accountability, but I think that's why there's big disciplinary problems, because the students aren't held accountable in ways that they should for their actions. So that was my hardest part, the discipline and the accountability and the respect level.
Now, coming out of military and growing up in the city. What, like, did you ever have a passion to teach, or was it more like when you started coming to the school and seeing the impact you can have on kids, that's when you decide that you could be a teacher or instructor?
Yeah, I did, because if you would have told me 20 years ago that I would be teaching in a high school, I'd tell you you're full of.
Right.
And my friends still laugh at me about, I can't believe you're a teacher. So it wasn't so much I thought that I had this desire to teach, but I guess all my life I've been instructing or teaching in some sort, coaching is what I call it.
Right.
And yeah, it was when I saw the impact that I had, because I've always, even with my friends and stuff, all their kids would always come to me for advice, so I've always had a connection and a rapport with kids, probably because I'm a big kid myself, and I never forgot what it was like to be young. And like I tell you guys, I'm just a big kid with a lot of experience, so.
What qualities or characteristics do you believe you have to help you get day by day in this type of setting and help you become a coach, like you said you are?
I think I'm passionate about it. I don't put on the front, what you see is what you get, and my integrity, because I'm not going to stand in front of people and tell them you should be like this, and I'm not doing it myself. So I walk the walk, I lead by example.
Do you feel that, in the past you made a difference inside your military career?
I didn't, but I have people, when I go back to my old unit, tell me that they wish I was still there and the impact that I had. A lot of times when you're just doing your job, you don't see it. You call it humble or whatever. I don't need that pat on the back all the time. It's just I do my job. And yeah, I guess I did. And from what I'm hearing, and my retirement last year, I guess, was testament to that, because when I looked out there and I saw all those people, I was like, wow.
Do you feel that you are making a difference now, with us?
So I've been told, and I think so, because every time I say I'm leaving and I see the response, then yeah, I think I am making a difference.
So does it help you receive support from other teachers to show that you are making a difference, even though it's gradually, but does it help you keep your spirit up to continue?
Yes, it does, because the day that when I'm not passionate about this job, or I don't want to be here, or it's a pain to get up and I'm dreading walking into this building, or when I see I'm not making a difference, then it's time to leave.
You're also a coach for the girls' varsity team.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel being part of that team and helping them being as close-knit as you were used to in the military, and try to do that? Do you try to get them as close as they can and be like sisters, or?
And that's my role as one of the coaches, and that's my main role, is yes, I can teach them basketball skills, because I played the game and I have a passion for it, but I'm primarily there to foster teamwork and teach them how to play as a team and teach them how to be successful as a team, because you could have all the skill in the world, but if you don't go out there and work as a team, you're not going to be effective or successful. So.
How were you first aware of that coach position? Was it through a friend, or?
It really wasn't. I just went up when I started working here last year. I went up to the head coach, and I wasn't even looking for a coaching position. I said, hey, I love the game. If you need any help, you need somebody to come out and help you with the practices, when I have time, I'll come out and help you. And she asked me if I wanted to be her assistant coach.
And when she offered you that, were you all happy about it and go for it, or?
Yeah, I was psyched. I was like, oh, I get to do, I'm like, life is good. I'm getting to do, what I like. I have friends in the broadcasting department. I get to play with my other passion with the toys and broadcasting, so life is good.
So how do you feel when the team wins a big game, or if they lose, but they put their best effort? How do you feel as a coach?
Like a proud parent. So if they win, you're excited, you're pumped, as you guys probably saw me the next day, because I have no voice. And when they lose, if I know that they gave 100%, then hey, you're still proud. If they went out there and they didn't give 100% and they lost, then what are you going to do?
Make practice harder.
Yes, exactly. Lapsed.
being such, as you can say, a down-to-earth teacher and a coach, a lot of people in RFA know who you are for the personality you brought forth, and you stand out from all the teachers. And a lot of people come seek advice from you, and sometimes you hear stuff like probably hits back home and like really hurts you. Like, where can you come and get that advice and that strength to tell this kid who's going through a certain situation? And how do you feel that these kids are coming up to you? Like, does it help you, or does it sometimes like makes you feel uncomfortable that you have to deal with this situation?
It doesn't make me uncomfortable. I mean, there are certain situations that will break your heart. I mean, you'd have to not have a heart for it not to break your heart. But I just look at, you go back to your home, and you go back to your spirituality, and you're just like, okay, there's a silver lining, in every cloud there's a silver lining. So you try to help that person see the positive. Or sometimes all you need to be is just that support or that comforting, because there's a lot of times that kids are upset. They don't want to hear, well, you should do this, you should do this. They don't want the counseling. They just want to know that somebody cares. Or maybe sometimes all they just need is a friendly hug. So.
If you can look back from your military career, and since you've been instructing your military career, would there be anything that you would like to change to either increase or anything that you regret about anything in your military career?
Is there anything that I regret in my military career?
Well, like overall, like anything that you would, if you can go back and take back and like correct it, what would it be for you and why?
In military or in?
Well, in your military and since you've been an instructor here.
Not that I can think of. I mean, there's nothing because I'm like this, as every mistake for me is feedback. So I don't sit there and dwell about, oh, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I just look at it as feedback, and then move on and see how I can make things better. So I think in life you have to make mistakes because, the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I don't regret really anything that I did. I mean, there was times I kind of thought I regretted not having a family, getting married, having kids, but thanks to you guys. No, and actually, I look back, I was like, it'd have been cool to have some kids, but now I have 172 kids. And honestly, if I had a family and I had kids, I wouldn't be able to do this job the way that I do. So for everything, there's a reason.
Right now, out of all the 170 kids, which one do you believe really hits a nerve and really just want you to, lose it? And why?
You mean, is there, out of those 172 kids,
Right.
are there
Is
any
it-
kids that, one kid?
One kid itself or a group of kids who just gets, you would think they'll learn the first time they made it, but they continue, and why do you feel like that way?
I mean, are you trying to ask me, are there any of my kids that get under my skin?
Yeah, under your skin.
No.
And seeing the diversity of JROTC, of ethnicity, cultures, religions, how hard is it for you to try to get people, since there's all these social cliques, how hard is it for you to have them interact and lose that prideness, I would say, to, be friends and want to connect with other people instead of being that same close-knit group?
Inside JROTC or inside RFA?
Inside JROTC.
It's not hard because we run JROTC like the military, and I shouldn't say like being in the military, but how the military is successful. So what's the biggest thing in the military? You take a group of people from all different walks of life and you teach them how to get together and be a team. So that's where my military experience comes into play, is I take the training that I have, is a team is successful if you're shooting for the same goal. If everybody has that same goal, then it doesn't matter where you came from or the different cliques. So it's pretty easy, I guess.
Going back to the to the beginning where you stated that you joined the Air Force because, you know, that it wouldn't be as, how you say, discriminating / prejudice,
why
I
join the
guess.
Air Force versus the other services?
Yeah. Going back to that, was it more so like that you were, because you were intimidated of what might happen if you joined like the others? Or was it just being like hard as a minority / woman?
It's a little bit of both. And if you look at the Navy, the Marines, and the Army, and I'm not discrediting them because everybody has their role in the armed forces, is the three of those branches have been around for years. I mean, you're talking a couple of 100 years, where the Air Force is a baby. So a lot of the customs and courtesies in the Air Force and their realm of thinking is different because it was set, you know, in the 1940s. So the Air Force concentrates more, you know, you have your Navy, they're responsible for the sea. The Army is like more the grunt work kind of thing. Air Force is technology. So, and then if you look at like even to get into the Air Force, it's harder than the other branches. And it's because they're going for your brain power. So, and that was my main thing. And as far as being a minority, again, like I said, the Air Force is a younger branch, so I just thought it would be a little bit easier. But they have their problems too.
How does it make you feel when you hear things like various scandals like Operation Tailhook and things like that?
It pisses you off because it's a discredit, but I can even take it back to junior ROTC. You have one cadet that does something, a gross act of buffoonery. Should I let that discredit the whole Corps? Because should one cadet's actions discredit 50 other cadets' good actions? So you look at it, everybody has their problems. Nobody's perfect, you know. That's been proven in religion. Every organization has their problems. And hopefully it's the minority of it versus the majority.
Now, out of your 20 years in your military career, how did your parents feel about your accomplishment and what you've done in the military, being that your dad was part of the Air Force?
My dad, he never really said anything about it. He was happy that he was like shocked that I stayed in as long as I did, but he was proud. My mother, you know, you get that typical Puerto Rican mom, oh my baby. So you know, every little thing that I did was great. My daddy understood. So.
As you see women being more and more incorporated into like combat situations, how do you feel about, you know, these women going into combat situations, you know, getting killed? Because some people say, well, where's the chivalry in the world? You know, where are the guys that are supposed to be coming here and saving, you know, people on a nice shiny horse?
I think to be successful that you need both. You need, because there are going to be strong points that women are going to bring, and there are going to be strong points that men are going to bring. So I go back to firemen. You know, a fireman or fire person should be of all shapes, sizes, races, you know, genders, because say you have a kid trapped in a little well. It may take a little petite firewoman to go down there and get her, or say you have somebody trapped that you need a big person. So you need everybody. And I think it's time that women step up and be able to show that they can do it too. But chivalry is not dead in a degree where, and it happened to me, it's like sometimes I'll be carrying a box, which according to the Air Force, everybody should be able to lift 70 pounds. So say I'm carrying a 65-pound box and you got guys going, oh, I'll get that. No, I got it. No, you shouldn't be carrying it. Well, why not? You know, I can pull my weight.
Do you feel that you get offended if a guy would go and try to take the box from you to help you out, or would you not consider helping out more like?
Well, it all depends on how they address you with it. Like, say I'm carrying a box and you go say, Sarge, you need some help with that? Or let me get that for you or whatever. And then let it be up to me to say, oh, okay, you know. Or there's times that I'll see that you see, say, a female picking up a box and struggling, and there'll be 3 guys sitting over there going, well, let her pull her weight. So it's only how you approach it. And it's a teamwork thing. It shouldn't just be a female. It should be anybody. If you're sitting in here and say you 3 are sitting over there, and you got one person over there doing something, well, if you 3 went over and helped, then it's going to get done faster. So.
Being a woman, it took longer for women to get the availability of choosing their services. Who do you believe helped pave the way for a woman to enter the military branches and help out?
I would have to say probably the Navy waves, because they came in, even though they were in the typical nursing type environments, but at least they set a precedence to show that there's a need for women in the military. And it's still hard. I came from a technology background, which is mostly males. And this has happened to me. I'll be sitting, say, in a room, and they're talking about a project, and I'll give an idea, and because it's a predominantly male area, they'll say, you know, like, no, that's not going to work. But then you can go around the table, and some guy will say the same thing that I said 5 minutes ago, and it's like the best idea since sliced bread.
So would you say there was a lot of those situations in your military career of, you know, your voice being rejected or not counted in?
It is, but I won't say that it's being done because it's intentionally being done. It's because it's societal norms, and we have to change the way that you think. And I could go back to, if I'm doing administrative work or I'm planning a Christmas party, then it's like, okay, you know, whatever, you're going to do it. So it's like the typical role. So it's just us as a society needs to change how we think.
A lot of people being in the rear echelon feel that they haven't really contributed much to a war effort. How do you feel that you did to the war effort today, like before you retired?
Meaning, like, some people think just because they're not on the front lines that they're not contributing?
Yes.
It's like this, and we use it for a pilot. You know, everybody sees that pilot get in the plane, take off, but it takes, what was the numbers, I think, 200 and something people to get that pilot in the plane, all the way from the crew chief that's fixing the plane, all the way down to the cook that served that pilot his breakfast or lunch. So it takes everybody, and everybody plays a part. Just because you're not over there on the front lines fighting, somebody needs to stay back home and take care of the jobs too. So you have to look at it as like the big picture thing. Everybody participates. It doesn't matter whether you're pulling the trigger or not. So.
How hectic was it for you during 9/11, since it was an unexpected event? How hard was it? How much pressure did you have during that setting?
9/11 was hard for me, but again, like I said, it goes back, and this probably falls back on my honor guard, is, for me it was really hard, especially growing up in the city. You know, that hit home. You hit my backyard, basically. You know, you hit a building that in second grade we used to take field trips to. And knowing that I have friends that work there, I have family that works there, but I didn't have time to think about that. I had to take care of what's going on right now. So it was hard. I mean, I think after all said and done, I lost one cousin, a best friend, and I think it was like 45 classmates from my class that I graduated. So, but you don't have time to think about that.
Now looking back to your teacher career, how long would you like to continue being an instructor, or are you still undecided on how long you want to continue?
As long as I'm making a difference. So if it happens next year that I'm not effective and I'm not making a difference, then I'm gone. If I'm here 30 years from now and I'm still making a difference on students' lives, then I'll be here.
Now, making a difference, would you consider one student? If you can impact one student, will that just continue to drive and motivate you to keep on pounding
Yes.
through? And thank you for your support, and
Well, thank you.
it's really appreciated. And thank you for helping out in the efforts in 9/11 and the Gulf War. It's greatly appreciated.
And thank you for being our teacher.
You're welcome. We're done?
Yeah.
I was holding that.
Oh, that's like holding your breath for an hour. Oh my God.
Like Paul's like when he said that weird thing, I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, that's what I was thinking.